What up, rap leaders? Welcome back to my channel. I am back at Liliendaal to take a look at this Pashia Global 5-star hotel. I want to see how many floors they've added since the last time we've been here. So let's see, the first 3 floors on the ground have very tall ceilings. So we're gonna count from 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they're working on the 14th floor. They're working on the 14th floor at this eastern end of the building. And the western end of the building, of course, is still a couple of floors lower. But this is where we are. That's the new pump station here at Liliendaal. I think we took a look at the cost. This one is 300 million or more, I think, based on what was posted on the sign. This is where it comes out on the seawall. They actually had to break the wall so that they could pass the pipes through. And recently we did an update on the COVID hospital, which is about 100 meters or so away west of where we are. And that's Liliendaal. That's what the sign says, Liliendaal. It's the next village over. So we are officially in Pattinson. This would be Pattinson. The next village over is Turkine. That is the movie town. Where that building is movie town. And this is traffic on the east coast of Demerara at about 6:30, almost 7 in the morning on a Saturday morning, Saturday the 26th of April. So this is where we are. That's looking west towards Georgetown. Traffic heading west is going towards Georgetown. So what's happening with Pashia? This is in fact the tallest, officially the tallest structure by the number of stories in Guyana right now, at 14 stories. The Pegasus Suites and Corporate Center is 12 stories tall. And the new police station, that is Division 1 headquarters in Brickdam, that's going to be 12 stories tall. So this building, Pashia Global 5-star Hotel, this is going to be the tallest building presently. Now there are plans for taller buildings to be built. I understand. I haven't seen those plans or the buildings yet, and as soon as they start to construct them, we will take a look at them, visit them. But this is in fact currently the tallest building in Guyana. It's going to be 16 stories tall when it's completed. It is a hotel, casino and resort. And it's one of the most massive structures because we're actually only looking at the north-facing side of the building at this point. I don't know if the entire building is going to be 16 stories tall, but judging from what is being constructed here at the east end, that east end where the crane is now 14 stories tall. I don't know if they're going to push that crane up a little higher. These guys on the cart want to say hi. Okay, so that building on the east end is going to be 16 stories tall when it's completed, and it's currently at 14 stories tall, which means they're going to have to raise that crane a little higher to get to the top of the building. That is another 2 floors. But this is what's happening here at Liliendal. Now, I have made other videos in the past showing you what's happening nearby. This, for example, is the Sophia Convention Center. That's where the government now holds its parliamentary meetings. No longer downtown Parliament, in the Parliament building. And next door to the east, behind these trees, is the CARICOM headquarters. I've actually done a pass around the CARICOM headquarters and shown you what that looks like in previous videos. And as you turn east, so some of these buildings, this tall building, for example, is a rental, an office rental that CARICOM was using for a long while. Don't know if CARICOM still rents that building as office space. But coming around to the east, these buildings, this is a housing development that's being constructed in this neck of the woods. Right, this is a new multi-unit apartment complex that's being built, currently surrounded by green fabric, that's construction fabric. I'm going to take a look at it closer once the construction is further along. But what I want to do today is to show you what's happening by comparison with construction around Georgetown. So we started here with Pashia Global Hotel, Global 5-star Hotel and casino resort. What we're going to do next is I'm going to show you what Pegasus Suites is doing. I understand they're actually planning another 12-story building on their complex, and we're going to go take a look at that now. Meaning that they're actually doubling the number of rooms. So the hotel, the Pegasus Suites, that 12-story building, is going to have a twin nearby, and they've already broken ground on that. So we're going to take a look at it to see how far they've come and where it's going to be located. So let's take a look at that. So this is the Pegasus Suites and Corporate Center. The front, that is a large square facade. That is the Convention Center. It appears to be blue in this morning's light. And the tall building behind, that is the Pegasus Suites. It's 12 stories tall. We are on the Esplanade, the new Kingston Esplanade, looking out to the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, they've actually put some new sea defenses here, piles of rocks to prevent beach erosion, so that's new. They've extended that all along to the east side, and of course beyond is the Atlantic Ocean. On a Saturday morning. So what we're here to do is to examine the height of these buildings. In the distance you can see into Kingston. Somebody says they're building a 25-story building. That building, the roof of that building we can see, that's where ExxonMobil and a number of the oil and gas industry companies have their headquarters, where their offices are. It's about 12 stories tall, I believe. Somebody says they're building a 25-story building in that neighborhood. I haven't seen the works yet. I'm going to take a look at it closer in a few minutes and bring that to you later on. What's happening here? Apparently the Esplanade sign, that apparently is falling down. But we're here at the Kingston Esplanade. Those are the concession stands that were built recently. Not quite completed, but at least on the exterior they look as if they have been finished. They're not open. Sorry, the interior structures are not open. This building, the blue and white building, is the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. It was destroyed by fire and now has been rebuilt as a concrete structure. It was a wooden structure before. And of course, it's in the compound of all these police buildings. That one is the police officers' mess, and a number of residential buildings are. That is where they house the police recruits, the police academy. This building, that is the headquarters of GBTI, Guyana Bank for Trade and Industry, which is major shareholder is the Bihari Group. But what we're here to do is to examine what's happening with this new Pegasus Suites and Corporate Center. As I understand it, they're actually building, that is the general manager and CEO has announced that he's building a new 12-story building next door to this Pegasus Suites. And apparently it's going to be located between the old Pegasus, that cylindrical building, and this new Pegasus Suites tower. And it's going to be exactly the same height as the Pegasus Suites and Corporate Center, that is 12 stories tall. What I want to see today is figure out how it fits. How do you fit another 12-story building between these two hotels? It would seem to me that they would have to tear down, demolish the current convention center. So the old Pegasus Suite has an auditorium that occupies what used to be a tennis court. So back in the day, right back in the 1980s, there were only a couple of places you could play tennis in Guyana. One of them was the tennis courts at the Pegasus Hotel. Back in the 1980s, right? 1987, 88, I played on that hotel. It was very, very windy because none of these trees existed. None of these buildings existed, so it was very windy. But they tore down those courts eventually to build the Pegasus auditorium, the place where they have a lot of their meetings. So it seems to me that space no longer exists because the tennis court was dismantled, demolished to make room for, or to create this extension. So what are they doing now? They would have to demolish. Apparently they are already doing that. So this is the space between the two buildings. And what the theory is now is that they're going to put another building. And what I'm saying is they're going to have to tear down this end of the building, which apparently they've already done. They're going to demolish that end of the building to create space to build the new tower, a new 12-story tower. So yes, in fact, they're going to put that 12-story tower in exactly the same location where the tennis courts initially existed. We're here on the promenade. This is where the old guard hut, this Benab used to be. It's been refurbished. And up the street there, up on the western end of the promenade, there is the Marriott Hotel, right? So that's the Marriott at that end. Marriott is about, what, 7 stories, 6 stories tall? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 stories tall. We're going to take a closer look at it later on in this video. So this is the new urinal. They actually built this public restroom, one of the first in Guyana that's open to the public. But this is what is happening here. So like I said, there used to be a tennis court in this location. There used to be a set of tennis courts. Well, I think 2 tennis courts, as I recall, in this space. And what they did is they tore down those tennis courts to build this building, which was actually further out. It was a longer building. And this is the location where they had the auditorium, place they would have large groups and talks and so on. Their convention center, Pegasus, the old Pegasus Hotel Convention Center. So apparently Mr. Badal has decided to place another, in this case 12-story building. This is the current Pegasus Suites building, and they're going to put a twin to that building in this spot between the old Pegasus Hotel, which is that cylindrical structure, and the new Pegasus Suites, which is this box-shaped structure. And they're going to put it in this space between the two. So you're going to have another 12-story building in the space between the old Pegasus and the new Pegasus. And of course, that is an extension. This is an extension to the Pegasus Hotel that was built, I think, back in the 1980s, 1990s. I don't recall, but I think that was not originally there. The cylindrical building is the oldest part of the Pegasus Hotel, and then they built that extension. They had, I think, a exercise room and a gym, indoor gym there on the property. Here they have their cooling tower and their water treatment system. So that's their water treatment and cooling. But over here, this used to be the tennis courts. I remember playing on those tennis courts, like I said, back in the 1980s, the mid 80s, late 80s, even the early 90s. I think that those courts still existed until they rebuilt. They tore them down and built the old auditorium for the Pegasus Hotel. Now they've torn that down, and you're going to get apparently another 12-story building. But compared to the 16-story Pegasus, the 16-story Pashia Global Hotel, Pashia Global 5-star Hotel and Casino, these are the guys working, I guess, on laying out the lines, the footprint for the building. So in addition to that 16-story building, you're going to have two 12-story buildings here. I guess if you count them side by side, they're probably more in total number of floors, 24 floors together, plus I guess the convention center and the Pegasus Hotel. So this is going to be a major complex. That is the GBTI headquarters, and I think you can see just the top of the embassy. That is, I think, the top of the American embassy in this neighborhood. But that's what's happening here, guys. Another 12-story hotel building going up in this neck of woods. Over here, this is the artificial beach that was created for the Marriott. So they actually brought in sand from the interior and created this artificial beach. And more recently, the government of Guyana created this little barrier, this cove, using with these rocks. You saw this in the night, one of the night views I did recently. But this is what it looks like in the daytime. Right, that's looking east along the coast. In fact, you could see way in the distance, you can see the Pashia Global 5-star Hotel and Resort. You can see that in the distance. Over here, that's the Pegasus Suites and Corporate Center, and they're going to put another 12-story building between the two. And then to the west, that is the Marriott Hotel. They said the Marriott has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about 9 floors. About 9 floors, I think. right? About 9 floors for the Marriott Hotel. So still nothing close to the 16 stories of the new Pashia Global 5-star Hotel. In this view, you can also see in the distance, that is the old lighthouse tower here in Kingston. And what is going to happen in the future is they're going to build a Hilton Hotel. Like I said many times, I argue that a lot of this mud flats, so these are mud flats on the other side of the seawall, a lot of this mud flat could be reclaimed. However, that's not what they're doing. They are going to build, guys, that's what's happening in this neck of the woods. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. That's the western end towards the Demerara River. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening in the fastest growing country in the world, Guyana, here at Kingston in Georgetown. Later!